Welcome to Don't You Two Read, a podcast where two sisters talk about all things books.
We're just two girls who found ourselves texting about books on a daily basis and thought, why not turn on a mic?
We'll be talking about our recent reads, a weekly bookish topic, and what we're looking forward to reading next.
So grab a cup of coffee and maybe even a snack and be prepared to take down your TBR and add a lot to it as we talk all things books.
I'm Hilary, a mom in Oklahoma, and I am the slowest reader in the world.
And I'm Hannah, a stay-at-home mom in Texas, and I am so excited for a new year.
This is episode 26, and hi, we are so glad that you are here today. Today, we are kicking off our 2025 year in podcast world. In real world, Hannah and I are still in 2024, but hello to the future. Hello, future us. And today we're going to talk about New Year, Who Dis? That was my stupid title. And we're going to talk about all the things, like a recap of our year. Not the books we read, but like what we loved in our reading, what we didn't love. And then also I have a few things to add about what I loved, like about the podcast, and what I haven't loved and what I plan to change on my end. And I think Hannah does too. So we are so excited about that. And then we have recent reads, and later we'll finish up with our short list. But first, Hannah, how are you? How's your reading? I know we got to see each other on Thanksgiving break, and that was a lot of fun, but wild.
I know, we're in a sandwich right now. So I was in Oklahoma for Thanksgiving, and then I will be in Oklahoma again for Christmas.
Soon.
So we're just in the in-between. My reading has been good. I will say the Christmas reads, guys, have not been very good to me. So I
have a question. Have you read only like new release Christmas or backlist too?
I've read some of them were backlist. But the ones that have I think the ones that I have not been impressed with have been this year's.
Yeah, sometimes it's just bad year of books,
Okay, this is what my opinion is, and I could be wrong. My perception is I feel like in the past, there were not as many Christmas releases. I feel like a lot of authors did not. They were not going to do Christmas because it's like, I've been told this, that it's just like a tiny window of sales, basically. So
Yeah.
it's like they don't want to do it. However, I think that this is something about trendy, like writing to trend. I feel like a lot of authors are like indie authors are busting out like 6 books a year. So then they're like, let me get a Christmas out. And I don't know, guys. I don't know. I think maybe that's part of it. I don't know. They just didn't connect with me very much this year. So I feel like because I have stepped back a little bit from Christmas reads, or at least from the new releases, I have been enjoying reading more. So I don't know. I'm like, bah humbug, I guess.
hmm Maybe you need to just read more Christmas backlist.
Yeah, I think so. Um, how has yours been?
It's been fine, I guess. I've been really reading really slow, and a lot of that is because like the holidays, obviously,
Mhm.
like I know you were saying with mom, but we drove like there and back, and it was just
Mhm.
kind of a little wild, and I don't regret it. I knew that going into it. It was just not going to be very much. So I haven't read very much. And then I haven't done audiobooks in a long time because
You
I
hate
kind of
them.
got yeah, like I got burned out and wasn't enjoying them. There every now and then I will really enjoy one, but it's a surprise when I do. So I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna make myself listen just to get a number up. So
Mhm.
but it has been a little discouraging to see the number fall. But also, I've had a lot of books I, in quotes, have to read. And so
Mhm.
that's been hard for me too, is like book club books and art. I had an arc I had to read. And then our Twilight books, which I have loved our Twilight books.
Mhm.
But the idea of I need to read this, I need to, that's a struggle for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Also, I'm finishing up, I hope to finish it tonight, Breaking Dawn, which that episode will come out in a couple weeks for
Mm,
the people listening. But whew, like,
that was a doozy.
yeah, it's a rough. I mean, I'm looking forward to discussing it. I have a lot to discuss.
Hmm.
Um, but I have a lot of problems with the book. So,
That one
yeah.
was not as enjoyable.
Yeah, it was a lot of
Ah,
nonsense, a lot of nonsense. And I don't know that I would have continued reading it if I had read this book today for the first time. I think I'd have like DNF'd it probably because I've been
yeah.
like, this is so much nonsense. But
Hmm.
I am looking forward to talking about it. I don't want to discourage anybody, but the tea is hot on this one. Just a lot of opinions.
I'm like, if you think we were rude the last three books, just wait.
Yeah, it's I don't
Ah,
have a lot um I don't have a lot of glowing things to say about it, but it has been interesting, that's for sure. So I think I just got stuck kind of behind that one. It's also a really big book.
mm-hmm.
So anyway, it's been okay. It's been okay. I've had great books, I've had meh books. So
I thought
anyway,
I thought you were gonna say it's been better. I was like,
it
same.
has been better.
Yeah,
It has been better for sure, but it's okay. Okay, do you want to talk about your first recent read?
sure. Okay. For my first book, this book is coming out tomorrow. So this is Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. Okay, let's just jump into the synopsis. Emily Walker hates having her carefully crafted world disrupted by anyone, most of all by her legendary nemesis, Jack Bennett. He's the opposite of the wonderful heroes she dreams up in her double life as a romance writer, which is why Emily was perfectly happy when Jack left Rome, Kentucky, mid school year. He left with his fiancée. The last thing Emily saw coming was Jack returning at the start of the summer after calling off his wedding and ending his relationship. But he's here to stay as her colleague and her neighbor. Jackson Bennett is glad to be back. He's eager to renovate his house and work on the next mystery novel under his best selling pen name. But when he realizes that he's now neighbors with the one woman who has always pushed his buttons, he discovers something that he's even more excited for, thwarting Emily and her petty plans to sabotage his return. With their chemistry fueled animosity at an all time high, Emily accidentally sends an email to their school principal that could reveal her secret literary side hustle. She needs to steal back her manuscript, and Jack is just the man to help her. Surprisingly, Jack agrees. Will their unlikely alliance put an end to their rivalry, or could it lead to a steamy plot twist that they never saw coming? Okay, so let's. I have a lot to say. I'm like, buckle in, guys. This is book three in Sarah Adams' series.
The When in Rome?
Yes, so this is book three in her When in Rome series. Now, let's just first, I'll start with the basics. I think that this book was really cute. I think it was fun. I think that her chemistry between Emily and Jack, I liked it. I thought they had really cute banter. They had like that rivalry, which I loved, and then they had the neighbor element, which I also really like. There were emails. Every book in the series, she based it very loosely off of a different Audrey Hepburn movie. So this one is like, there's some Easter eggs here and there for How to Steal a Million, which is probably my favorite Audrey Hepburn movie. So I did like those elements for sure. I love that movie. And I think she added like not much. If I didn't know, I would not have known, if that makes sense. It was very, very light. There's a cat. So I love the cat. And overall, I would say that I enjoyed the book. However, I have like several caveats. I don't feel like this felt like the old Sarah Adams. And I don't know if that's fair. When I think of Sarah Adams and I think of her older books, like The Enemy or The Temporary Roomie, The Off Limits Rule, what's the other one I love? The Match. This does not feel like that. She's been evolving. So, like, not just has she been evolving into like from closed door, like from sweet romance, I would say, and then kind of going into like Fade to Black, and then she's now gone into Open Door as of her last few books. So I feel like she's been evolving for a few years now, I think. So like this just it didn't feel like her old stuff at all to me, which that may be a good thing for some people. For me, I was kind of sad. Like I liked the book, but it was not it just didn't have like the Sarah charm, which I think is what set her apart for me in my reading. Um, and then I think it bothers me a little bit. So this book is open door. She has chapters in the beginning, like the first page of like you can skip. Like she's like, you can enjoy this as a closed door book. You can skip these chapters and still enjoy the book. Like I feel like there was more content to skip than what they gave you. And that's just everybody's probably going to have their own differing opinions. I thought that the two she listed were not the only two scenes that to me should be skipped or that I would skip personally. So I will say that. Oh. And then another thing, this is another problem that I have is that it kind of bothers me that this is book three and book one and two were not open door. So like whenever Sarah decided to
Yeah.
switch to open door, she did the rule book, which that would be one too, because so she started the cheat sheet closed door, and then she did the rule book, which is book two, open door, and then you have this series, the When in Rome series, where book one and two are like closed door fade to black, and then now book three is open door. So like she like kind of jumped in the middle of two series and did that. And in my brain, I'm like, why could you not have like just finished the series? Which I guess
Hmm.
I don't know, guys.
That
If
is confusing though to tell someone to pick up a series and then you're like, well, it depends on which one in the series. Like it's just very confusing.
it is very confusing. And like whenever Sarah posted her like big post where she's like, "Oh, for my next book, which was at that time rule book." She's like, "For rule book, it's going to be open door." And she's like, "I'm not saying that I'm always going to do open door. Like sometimes I might. She said, maybe I will go back to writing a closed door." Very like doesn't want to slam the door. I'm like, no pun intended. She doesn't want to like slam the door shut on the closed door readers, but I just for me personally, I think that it should be. So I mean, you got to make your own call here. If you like her other like her sweet romances and you don't want like explicit content, I don't think you're going to enjoy this. I think it's going to be too much. That's just my opinion. If you like open door books and you don't mind spice, then I think you'll be fine. I think you'll like it. That's all. So yeah, if you enjoy flirty chemistry, if you enjoy characters that are authors, and if you're okay with this not feeling like the old time Sarah Adams books, then pick this one up. You can try it. That's Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams.
Did you give this 3 stars? I can't remember.
I gave it four. I like
Okay.
I did I liked it. It just yeah. I don't think it's going to be for everyone. And I also feel like it's fair. I'll say this. I will say this. Me personally, I don't plan to read future books by Sarah if she says, "Oh, I'm writing this book and it's closed door," then obviously I'll read it. Or if it's Fade to Black, then that's fine. But I don't think I would read anymore um going in this direction. So that's all. So what about you? What is your first book? I'm like starting it off with a bang.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will bring us back up again. So I'm going to keep it super casual for my books because I know I have a lot to talk about in the uh, topic of the week. But the first book I want to talk about, I needed to talk about it today because you'll see why. The title is Merry Little Match by Celine Rachelle.
That was my next book too.
Oh, really? Okay, well, we can
Yeah.
talk about it together then. Okay, so basically, that's funny. Hannah and I both picked the same book. What are the odds? Um, I wanted to bring this book today. It is a Christmas book. I will disclose that. However, it is set in the winter time. So I fully think, I mean, I think you can read it whenever. However, I still think this is a perfect time to pick it up until like springtime. So I feel like you still have a few more months that it would be appropriate to pick up this book. That's why I wanted to hurry and bring it today. So basically, this is a book. If you I want to equate it to now. Keep in mind, this is me who's saying this. I love Pride and Prejudice. I feel like it's a Pride and Prejudice Christmas. That's the kind of thing, like the kind of vibes that you're looking at. So I have a reel on my Instagram if you want to take a look at what the vibes are. But basically, we're looking at a girl and her name's Clara, and she is coming home for Christmas, and her dad is very, very sick. Like they think he's going to die, and it's unfortunate because, I mean, it's unfortunate, but also because he only has daughters. And in this time, daughters or women could not inherit property. It had to go to the nearest male relative. So they're kind of facing that. Very like Little Women also, like that was kind of something from then.
Hmm.
And Pride and Prejudice also, I mean, it's the same type of vibes. So they're dealing with that. And so the dad's dying and they're scared that this house, their property, everything is going to go to their cousin, and he's the worst. He's awful. We hate him, basically. And so Clara's like, no, no, I'm not gonna let this happen. We can avoid this if my older sister gets married. We need to get her married and find her basically someone that she likes okay. You know what I mean? Like that she can put up with, that she enjoys. We need to figure this out. So they're having this huge Christmas extravaganza basically over 2 weeks, and it's past Christmas. So it's before Christmas, Christmas, the New Year, and into that like time. So it's for a little bit. So right around this time of year that you're listening. And it takes the span over, it goes over that time. And I love it. It had all the Christmas vibes, like apple pie baking, caroling, sledding, sleigh rides. That's what I meant when I said sledding. uh, all that stuff. All those the perfect vibes, like the descriptions. I felt like I was in the manor. I think that's what it was, the estate, and I loved it. I loved all of that. Also, in the middle of all this, obviously, this is a romance. So Clara meets Nicholas, and they are definitely, I wouldn't say they're enemies to lovers. I would say they are, I don't know, rivals, I guess. I don't know,
Well,
whatever you want
okay,
to call it.
because you have his best friend is who she is trying to set her sister up with. And so he is like, doesn't
Does
like
not like
that.
that.
No. So they not like enemies, but they definitely, he doesn't
They don't like
like
each
her.
other.
Yeah, no.
So they definitely like bicker at each other quite a bit, and it's really funny and very flirtatious, but not on purpose. Like they're not trying to be flirtatious. They're just like very grumpy, and I loved that. And very closed door, like no on page intimacy happens at all in any way. So like you could definitely hand this to your mom or to somebody that you weren't sure like what their comfort level is. This will be fine. But I will say the only reason I would be hesitant to hand this to my mom is like there's nothing physical that happens, nothing's described, but there is still like some tension in like between the two characters. And so I liked that. I enjoyed it. But my point is like just because there's no like on page intimacy doesn't mean that there's no like heat to it. So there is a couple scenes that I loved that were just very, I don't know how to describe it. Sensual, I guess would be the right word. So totally appropriate, but I loved it. I loved how you could like put the heat in it without being explicit. So I loved
Hmm.
it. Do you have what you want to say? What you wanted to say?
I really liked it too. I was very impressed. This was Celine's debut novel, and I thought she did so good. Sometimes I can get intimidated by historical or like Regency, and I have read not a ton, but like I've read a lot in the last few years because I've expanded and I have found some authors that I really love in this category, but I can still be intimidated because Pride and Prejudice, the book, that is what like I don't. Hillary said she loved it. I like struggle with that language, and so sometimes I think I equate anytime I hear like historical or Regency, I think of that. I feel like this one is like easily readable. So if you're
Hmm.
nervous, like if you're like, oh, Pride and Prejudice, no, I'm not gonna like that. Like if you like Pride and Prejudice the movie, which I love, then I feel like you will love this book. And that was
Yes.
what I had too. And I like that there's the romance, but then there's more than that. A lot of the emphasis was on her family and her mom and her dad. And her mom and her dad specifically, I just was obsessed with them. And you have the dad who is sick. Whenever we got to that plot, I was like, oh, oh no, like what's gonna happen? It was more serious than I think I expected, but I loved that. I felt like it made it just like heartfelt. I don't know. I loved it. And the humor in it was
Hmm.
like
It was very funny.
good.
It was actually really funny. I laughed several times. It wasn't silly. It was not silly. It was not goofy. Their humor, like their banter, they're very witty. Like the characters are very
Yes.
witty and it's funny because they're like, again, the characters don't like each other. And so their digs are like, they're just funny. They get under each other's skin and piss each other off. And it's just funny. They're good, like really
Yeah.
good humor.
So technically, like I debated whether to bring it, but I was like, first of all, I think it hits the winter. Like
Yes.
what Hillary said, I think like, yes, there's the Christmas elements, but it extends like into winter time. And then
Hmm.
also I was like, oh, well, I don't care. Like if it's technically Christmas and it's January, then I'm bringing it because I think it's a good book and I think it's worth picking up even in January. So,
I want to do it justice, but I do recommend just checking it out. It's on Kindle Unlimited. So an easy, like really quick way to check it out, just like that. But I was surprised and I was nervous too. And I told Hannah if I was an author, I would not give us an arc.
mhm,
um, I know we can be brutal at times, I think, but she did. She gave us an arc, and I was nervous because I really like her. And so I was a little bit concerned, but then I read it and I fell in love with it. And I thought it was such a good book. And I know she's been trying to query her other book, like a full, you know what? This was a full novel. This was supposed to be a novella, and it wasn't. It was a novel, her other novel. And I don't know. I mean, my hope for her, I mean, if she wants to go traditional, I hope that she can, do that and achieve her dreams. But I would hope she doesn't not publish her other book herself if that's, you know what I mean? Like if
mhm,
that's the road she needs to go to do it indie and publish it that way, I will be here like championing that cause too. So
mhm.
we will be here to back her up for that. So, I mean, whatever. I'm like, who are we to talk? But I am in her corner. So I hope her next story gets to come out soon. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, same. I was very excited. Very excited. And she told me to, because I've been talking about this book a lot. And she's like, "Oh, you didn't have to say like that's so nice. You didn't have to say anything." And I'm like, "It's not like I am not. I will
Yeah, we don't
never
feel
say
like we have to.
no. If I don't like a book, first of all, I will say it and then I will move on. Like I'm not gonna not say it. I'll say it, but then like I'm gonna just move on. I only talk about books like this if I really truly love them, and I really did. I was very, very pleasantly surprised that I really liked it. So yeah, that is the Merry Little Match by Celine Rochelle.
Yeah, great one. Okay, so I'm gonna go really quick over my the last book, I guess, that we are gonna go over. My next book and the last book we're talking about today Is She Really Going Out with Him by Sophie Cousens. This
Mm,
was an arc. This was the last arc I had, and I'm really excited. I'm done with arcs for the year. But this was actually a really good one. I really loved it. So this is a book. It's a romance. So this is a story about a journalist, Anna, and she is divorced and she has children. And so she's perfectly happy alone. She's been hurt by her ex-husband. She's just, I mean, like basically accepted she's going to be single forever and she has no desire to get back out there in the dating world. But then in her job, because she's a journalist for a magazine, they're struggling to not go under because it's print. And so she has to do everything because they know they're having job cuts. And so she's like, has to come up with this really innovative idea, something to prove that she deserves to stay at the magazine. So she comes up with this idea off the cuff and is like, okay, well, what if I go and date all these men and write about my experience? And then they're like, no, it's not good enough. That's not interesting enough. And so her editor comes up with like, no, we need it more. What if it's like, I think they said 10, but I don't think she goes on 10. That's what's funny. There, let's see. Yes, 10 dates. See, I knew it. I knew someone said 7. I was like, no, 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 it's 10. Okay, so our editor says, no, it needs to be more catchy. 10 dates. It needs to be 10 dates. And if you've seen How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, picture that scene, with Andy Anderson and her editor going back and forth. No, How to Lose a Guy in 10 days, basically like that. So the editor's like, no, 10 dates with 10 different men, all chosen by your kids and not met online, no online matches. And so she's horrified because her children, who are like in middle school and elementary, are going to pick out the next men she dates for the foreseeable future. And it is hilarious. Like, this story is so funny to see like the mailman, or the kids are like the waiter. And then it's so funny to see how her kids like play into that, like putting their mom in like these awkward situations, and like, oh, excuse me, my mom has something to tell you. Like, it's just very weird and funny. And she's in her 30s, upper 30s, I want to say. And so I love that aspect, I love this new thing of seeing like women not teenagers or like
Mhm.
lower 20s. I love it. Like, women in their 30s and 40s and beyond are women too, have lives, want love, want
Mhm.
all these other things, all these things the same. So I love like this representation of that. I thought it was funny. I thought it was so heartwarming, even like the parts of motherhood with like this parenting element. I loved it. It was so good. I liked even the aspect of her trying to navigate her divorce and her ex-husband dating again. That was interesting. All around, it was closed door. We're not getting anything explicit, which is awesome. I was surprised. I was surprised. I wasn't sure what it was going to be.
Mhm.
Um, I don't want to give any more away. I think anything else would be a spoiler in the story about like how her story ends, but it was good. It was satisfying. Um, I laughed. I had a few tears, a couple times, just about the parenting stuff. It just got to me. She has a daughter and I love their relationship. Um, what was the last thing? Oh, just like the other book I just talked about, this one too, like it's proving like you do not have to have, I would not call this book like a sweet book. I'm really bad at these like terms of open, closed, or whatever. I don't know. I would not say this was like a sweet romance, like just really not at all. But it was not explicit. So I think we have come to this I think we have come to expect like if it's not explicit, then it's like sweet and
Mhm.
cheesy almost. And I just think I hate that. And I think these books now are showing that that does not necessarily have to be the case. I think it's fine for a book to be sweet and cheesy and whatever,
Mhm.
but or explicit. Like, if that's what you want to read, that's what you want to read. That's okay. But I don't think they have to be one or the other. And so
Mhm.
I love that this book was not sweet or cheesy. Like, there's one scene in my mind, if you've read this book, you can DM me, that nothing happens, nothing. But it was so like I want to say steamy. It was like her figuring out like, oh, I'm in my upper 30s and I can still like I still got it. I can still be confident in my own self, and I can be sexy too. And I loved it. Like, you can anyway, I'll get off my high horse with that, but I liked it. I like that you can still be, I don't know. Like, you can be up in your upper 30s and you can be sexy, but we don't have to read all the nitty-gritty details of it. You can
Mhm.
you can display that, portray that on the page without. without
Mhm.
having to just open the door all the way and us know every detail. I think you have to be actually like almost a stronger writer to do that, to still depict that without being like, and then they did this and they did this,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So,
Which here I go back. Here I go back to Sarah Adams. This was what she said before she did Open Door. She would say that she was like to be able to write not explicit and to still create that not just like the emotional bond
like
but also
tension.
yeah like intimacy in general but like even physical every touch like holding hands or like even kiss or whatever that to be able to describe that where people can like feel that and feel the intimacy of even the little moments does take skill. So yeah, I agree. I think it does. I don't know. It gives you a different feeling and yeah, I do. I think that that's like a middle ground that we are seeing a lot more of late. Like I think in this year, I think we're seeing a lot more of the like fade to black or like closed door, like the edgy closed door. I think we're seeing more of that. Not only like because in indie, I think that that's kind of like a happy place for a lot of indie authors, but I think that we're starting to see that in traditional too. So I'm happy.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm like I'm here for it. I'm here for that, like a quality book, and not doesn't have to necessarily be all open door and everyone doing the deed all
Mm.
on the page. And but I liked it. I looked it up for someone to look at a review for those people that do reviews better than me. The steam level is fade to black. I just say
Mm.
closed door and open door, but if anyone really wants to know, it is fade to black. So that's Is She Really Going Out with Him by Sophie Cousin.
That's on my list.
Yeah, I think you'll like it. And I know you didn't like her one of her other books, but I've read two of hers
No,
now, and I've really liked them both.
I did like her other book, but I can't tell you all the details about it because you haven't read it yet. I'm still waiting for you to read
I
it, which
know.
is
I'm
the
good.
good
I'm
part.
gonna get to, oh yeah, you said rated it 4 stars.
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
yes. It's a good one. It just yeah, I can't say all the feelings about it. So
I'm
read it.
gonna read it. I've really liked what I've read about from her so far. So yeah. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about our topic of the week, which is New Year Who Dis. So let's talk about things that you have been going well for your reading life, things that haven't been going well for your reading life, and then I guess we can just go back and forth, see how that goes. And then after we can talk about the podcast, like what we've been liking and then what has not been going well or what we want to change. Hannah, do you want to start off by like what has been going good? Like what has been good in your reading?
I have liked not having a book goal this year, not having on Goodreads of how many books I wanted to read this year. I have liked not counting my books. It's been great.
That was also on the top of my list is I said that is something I wanted to continue from this last year was not setting a number goal. Um, I don't think I need it, honestly.
Yeah, it it I don't need it. I don't need it and I don't want it. Because I also like it's just I think the hustle culture sometimes it just stresses me out. Like I've been already seeing the posts on Bookstagram like all over the place where it's like, "Oh, if you're trying to hit your goal, here's some novellas so you can hit it." And
Yes.
I am like, I if
Yes,
you've
I
posted
didn't want
this,
that.
I'm like
Yeah.
anybody who's posted this, I'm sorry. But I just think it's dumb. Like because books you can read a novella and then you can read like Sarah J. Maas or like we were talking to Jessica last time, Brandon Sanderson, where it's like 1,000 pages. So like a book count to me when you read as much as we do, I don't think it's useful.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if that's what you want a number, like a challenge. I've done it before and it's fine, but I did find myself like you were saying, like reading shorter shorter books or maybe not necessarily what I would want to like reading less big books
Mhm.
because I knew like, oh, I'm only gonna be able to read, for example, 5 books, but they're huge.
Yes, and I think that they can work for people. So everything that we're talking about, I want to say too, it shouldn't I shouldn't need to, but I will say everything that me and Hillary say, what worked for us or what didn't work for us, everybody is gonna find their answers will be different. And that's okay. Somebody told me today that they like book count goals because it helps them read more. So you have to kind of find what works for you. I have had book count goals before. And in 2024, I was like, no, I just want to not. I don't want to count them. Like, I just want to not and see how that goes. And I liked it. So it worked for me. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you guys have to do. What else do you have that worked for you as far as books?
Um,
It can be books, bookstagram, anything.
yeah. So that, and I was setting a number goal, but then the second thing I said was to like I wanted to continue to keep trying to find lower spiced books. Um, that is something I started to do this year and I will continue to do next year. I'm not saying for me personally that I am not going to read anything that's open door. I'm not saying that. However, I want to try to find more books that are both like really good quality and lower spice. That's my goal. Obviously, I'm not going to be perfect. And there are some books that are coming out next year that I know are open door and I want to read them. But that's my goal is to keep on trying to find high quality, lower spice books.
Yes, I have that in my next section, and I'll expand on my thoughts on it in a second. Something that else that worked for me this year was I feel like this was the year that I finally like found my sweet spot of reviewing books, rating and reviewing books. And we've talked about that in a previous episode, but like in past years, I really, really struggled. Let me only say my positive thoughts. I don't want to say my negative thoughts, or let me put my positive thoughts on Instagram, but then, everything, the good and the bad on Goodreads. Like it has been a disaster in past years. And I feel like in 2024, I found my sweet spot where I say it all. And I feel like I have reined myself in where I don't just say ugliness. I have really tried to like grow in um my tact. So I think I sleep at night is I guess what I'm saying. Like I don't feel like I'm mean, but I also don't feel like, well, I glowed that up more than I should. Like I feel like I found my sweet spot and I'd like to continue doing the reviews the way that I do.
Yeah, my next thing I said that I want to keep doing or that I like that I've done is I want to keep trying to buy used books I will buy new books every now as a treat. However, if I it's only like for a treat. If I want to read a book, I probably will not go and buy it brand new anymore. I've been really trying to buy on Pango if I can, and that has been awesome because you can get it so much cheaper and it feels so much less wasteful. If you can just buy it used, like someone else has read it, then you can give someone else a chance to read it and spend a fraction of the cost. So it's been more cost effective where I don't books have gotten like 30 something bucks each sometimes for
Mhm.
hardback, so it has helped me save a little bit. And I've been more intentional about what I buy, so just not
Mhm.
buying a book because it looks interesting. I try to buy a book if I legitimately think I'm going to read it. So I've been trying to be a little more selective in what I buy, and if I can buy used, and I want to keep doing that. I've loved Pango specifically for that. It's been awesome.
And I also think like something that I admire about Hillary is that she gets rid of books if she doesn't like them. Like, okay, she'll buy a book and then she'll text me and be like, I don't like this book. And then 2 seconds later, I get an alert from Pango and it's like, Hillary has listed this book for sale. And so I think like even if you do buy, I think you're quick to throw it back.
Yeah,
If you're not gonna, like, you don't just want to hoard it.
no.
Here I go, offending everybody today.
I still have a lot of books. Don't be mistaken. I still own a lot of books. But yes, if a book was just If I hated it, if I didn't like it, or even if it was meh, I sell it. And
Mm-hmm.
even if I really, there are sometimes if it's a 5-star book, but I know I'm not ever going to read it again, and I'll sell it,
Mm-hmm.
let someone else read it, and use that money, my Pango bucks, for something else that
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited to read, but I don't want to spend $30. I will sometimes buy a book if like the library hold is hundreds of people long.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
when I will be more likely to buy a book. I would prefer to buy it used just because I don't want to spend a bunch of money. I will make an exception. I am making an exception for Rebel Witch, which comes out
Mm-hmm.
in February. I have pre-ordered that. That is the exception. I want to own that book. I'm very excited. So yeah, that's all I have
Me
for
too.
me.
I have a lot for what
Cool.
did not work for me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't have, or okay, I will say I didn't necessarily word it like did not work, but these are things I would like to change or
Yes, yes,
im
yes.
what am I trying to say? I would like to
Do
do
differently.
basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, what's your first one?
Mine, okay, so this is like what you said as far as like spice in books. Mine, so I have it, what didn't work for me, but yes, what I want to do differently. So in the past years, I had like no, I don't know what the word is. I guess boundary for lack of word. So like I would skip the spice, but it would not keep me from picking a book up. Like if I saw an arc or if I saw a new release and they were like this steamy book or whatever, I would still be like I'll pick it up and then I'll just skip. And I just honestly I don't have patience for this anymore. Like I I just feel like how does it not affect my own reading experience? It just does. And so then I, in multiple ways, I'm like, how am I reviewing a book accurately if I'm just skipping a ton of stuff? Like, it's hard for me to review a book at all. Like, if I'm skipping things, and then it's like, is that an accurate representation of the book? If I skip stuff, what if I miss things that I would rate it lower for? You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to rate a book accurately if I'm skipping a ton of stuff. And so for me, my standard is in 2024, it did get more strict. However, as I go into 2025, I am going to be even more to where, if at all, like if I see it's like, oh, there are keywords, I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to know, but if it says like steamy or like sexy, like there's just certain things like you can kind of tell in a blurb or reviewers. A lot of reviewers now include it in their reviews where it'll be like
Mm-hmm.
5 chili peppers. Then I'm just gonna be like, it's just not for me. Like I'm not gonna be the target audience and I'm just gonna pass and I've already kind of started doing this, just passing on a lot more books, case by case. Like, it's not to say you're never going to see me read a book that I said, oh, I skipped spice, but like, I am definitely at this point trying to be much more picky because I don't know. I think I'm just realizing that I'm just not the target audience and I'd rather not. In most cases, I would just rather not.
Okay, my first one that I want to do better at is putting my phone in another room if when I want to read. Like at a certain time, if I know like this is my only allotted time to read for the day or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
to just set my phone in the other room and read. And that is a tip, which sounds so simple, but that I saw from Grace Anderson. And she said she has ADHD, which I don't know if I do or not. But that was her tip. Like, if you get easily distracted, just set your phone in another room and then go to another room. And she says she likes to read in the bath, but you can do it anywhere and just read. And so I want to do better at that. Just, being a little bit more intentional of even if it's only 30 minutes, just be totally undistracted
Mm-hmm.
by my phone. Less scrolling.
My next one is regarding arcs. I just want to do less. Less arcs. The same as I guess in my last category. I just want to be more strict, more intentional. I think that's probably the word I'm looking for, where I'm not just accepting any arcs or I'm not just requesting every arc. Very, very much stopping and questioning if I think I'm going to be a good fit for it and or just can I wait and not have an arc because why not? Like I think you get very caught up in the book world where it's like that's just what you do. And I'm like, today I was like, why?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I just want to like just yeah, stop and think and be like, okay, do I really, really want to read this book in the form of an arc? Can I wait? You know, like pros and cons. Why do I feel like I need to sign up for it now or whatever? So just being more intentional because, like you said, whenever I feel like I'm like the same way, if I feel like I have to read a book, it
It
affects
changes stuff.
it
Yeah.
makes me grumpy. Not it may not even make me grumpy for that specific book, but like it makes me, I think, a crankier reader whenever I in general have more on my like a to-do list at that point rather than mood reading. So, yeah.
Yes. Okay. I agree. I did that a lot this year. That was something I did that I would want to keep doing. I didn't do much, and it has made me a lot better. I don't feel like it's a lot less pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I would like to read more paper books this next year. I love my Kindle, obviously, but I've noticed like in like my Twilight reading, a lot of that has been on paper. And I don't know. I feel like I need to do the research on this. I'll find the peer-reviewed articles. But I'm curious of the effects of your on your brain between reading a paper book and the Kindle because I notice a difference in my own brain when I read a paper versus a Kindle. Like sometimes it's easier for me to focus on paper. There are times I don't know what it is like in the seasons of my life, but sometimes a paper book I'll be all consuming. Like I don't know, just like flipping the pages, and then you get to feel like how much you've read on one hand and how much you have to go on the other hand. I don't know. It's something like I feel like it's a lost art sometimes for me, and I want to do better at reading. And I think it's better for me, honestly, before bed.
Mm-hmm.
The times I've read a paper book and like read as much as I want, however late I want, shut it and turn out the light and lay down, I feel like I sleep so much better than whenever I'm reading my Kindle and turn out the light and I can still read the Kindle. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
you're almost attached to something at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'm not going to stop doing that all the time, but
Yeah.
because sometimes you just want it, but there is a difference. And so I would
Mhm.
like to read a little bit more paper books.
I agree. I do agree that there is a difference. I think like because your paperback, you're like holding it. Like it engages more than just one sense, you know? Okay, mine, and this is a weird one. My one of the things that I want to do differently. I want to do less audiobooks. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I like audiobooks. However, sometimes I feel like it's not like even conscious that I'm like I have to be reading something at all times. I think that it's just like I read so much that it's just probably just a habit and a lifestyle at this point. But I want to be intentional about not just feeling like I need to have a book on. Like if I'm cooking dinner and I want to put on music instead, I want to try to listen to more music.
Yeah, for sure.
Like on my Spotify wrap up or whatever, I didn't have that much music. And it's not that I don't like music. I actually really like music a lot. And I have just been thinking about this lately that I feel like music is very therapeutic for me and I neglect it a lot because if I'm listening to anything, I'm typically listening to a book. And I want to do different. I want to try to like really do music more and less audiobooks in those
Mm-hmm.
moments between.
For sure. Me too. That's something I did do last year, and my reading has shown, but it's good sometimes to just change it up and not be like actively having to do something at all times,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
constantly stimulated in that way. Okay, my next one is I want to read less of what's popular if I know it's not a good fit for me. One example I've seen this year that I have continually tried, I think, and I just don't think it's a good fit for me is cozy fantasy. That's the thing, my example. I just don't know that cozy fantasy is for me. Like, I love fantasy, but I like high stakes fantasy. And just learning that about myself, now I'm not saying never, but if I know, like, once you start to learn something about yourself, like, if somebody's like, this is just such a sweet little in a tea shop and nothing really happened, I'm like, I don't know, and I don't know, like, if I'm gonna like it. Like, I'm not, maybe I won't hate it, but it's just not going to be a super hit for me.
Hmm.
And I have to be really picky. So I think I'm going to try to be better at it. Like stuff that, like you said, with the like, you're like, this is the spiciest book I've ever read. You're like, I already know, like, it might be a good plot, but if you know, like, you're not going to love that, just
Hmm.
skip it and go to something else. So basically the same idea. Like with me, cozy fantasy, or I know there's some other things that, like we've said, like tropes that I know I don't love, just avoid it. And it'll come back to you if you need to read it. Just,
Hmm.
move on.
Yeah, piggy, is that even what, pigging? Forget it. Going,
Piggybacking.
continuing on that, my next one is something I have really fought against this whole year, and I'm gonna let it go this coming year. So I have always liked to go into books blind. I don't read the blurbs. Like the most that I would read for a book is like the highlights. So example, I could skim and be like, "Oh, enemies to lovers." Okay. I don't know much at all going into books. And I've always been like, "Well, I like that because I don't want to know all the things." Well, no. I for all the things that I want in the new year, like if I want less spicy books or if I want to be more strict on arcs or avoiding the things that you know that you're just not going to like right now, to do those things successfully, I feel like I cannot go into books blind anymore. That is, I think, where a lot of my pitfalls have come from because
Hmm.
example, a perfect example. There was a book that I read. I DNF'd it like halfway because the grandma was like crazy. She was running golf carts into places and it was wild. And the back of the book said that. And I didn't know this because I didn't read the back of the book like a dummy. But I read the back of the book when I was going to sell it. And it said that it was like, I don't know what, grandma, wild shenanigans and, getting into
Hmm.
trouble at the nursing home. If I had read that, then I would have just avoided the whole thing. So my thing is, I just don't feel like I can go into books blind anymore. Next year, I'm going to force myself to do better at actually looking at the synopsis of a book, seeing if it's going to be a good fit, because I just feel like I've wasted a lot of my time and a disservice probably to books and authors that I'm like DNF or two, 3 stars.
Yeah. Yes. When it's not for you anyway. Okay. So the next thing is I want to read more of my physical shelf. I said more physical books, but I want to read more of what's actually on my shelf because I have a stack going right now on my shelf that I have not read. I've bought, haven't read, haven't gotten to, and they just keep getting like pushed to the back burner. I'm
Hmm.
not going to ever be that person that does the TBR jar. I love those videos. They're so much fun. I just think I would hate it, like
Hmm.
making myself read 8 of these books in a month or whatever. However, I am open to like randomly picking one a month or something and making myself read a physical,
Hmm.
like off my own shelf, like not to buy one, get it off my own shelf and read it. So I want to try to get through more books on my own shelf and utilize Kindle Unlimited more, just like using more of what I have. If I have it and I'm paying for it, I want to make sure I'm pulling from those things. Like I already paid the money for my bookshelf books and Kindle Unlimited. I want to use them a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know how to word this correctly. I read a lot of books that released that are just like everybody's talking about them, like indie books I'm specifically talking about. And I just feel like that bit me a lot in the butt. I just need to like not read a book immediately because it's out and just let it sit and wait. I don't know, wait to see if other people have read it. Like just wait, not feel like the rush of like, okay, the book released today and I need to pick it up today.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm so excited. I want to pick it up today because like that happened like many, many times. And with the Christmas books too. Like the excitement of, oh, it's releasing. Like I'm waiting for the release day and then it releases and I'm gonna read it. And then I'm just like super disappointed. So part of it is maybe me just not being like that excited or just giving it time and not trying to rush into a book.
Probably again without knowing
Yeah.
what they're about. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like everything comes back to me. Yep.
Okay, my last one is I would like to try to compare less like my reading life with someone else's reading life. Like you kind of touched on this, but like I'm not going to ever be someone else. So, like, how much I read, what I read, it has nothing to do with somebody else. And I don't have to compare. Like, they read more than me, therefore I'm a terrible reader. Like, that doesn't necessarily mean that. But sometimes I think, especially with Bookstagram, you can just get so caught up in seeing like all the stuff people read and all the stuff you're not getting to or whatever, just comparing. And you don't know like people's lives. You don't know, you know what I mean? Like, you don't know the
Hmm.
whole story. And so, like, it's just no point. And that's why I don't really like the number goal is sometimes it feels like it's just this comparison thing. And like you see people that are reading like 300 books a year, and you don't know, like, you don't know their lives. You don't know, first of all, they could have like not be involved in their lives at all, but they could also be just like severely grieving something, and that's how they're coping with it through books. So the point is, you don't know what other people are going through and why their reading looks different than yours. So
Hmm.
I would like to work better at being like, no, Hillary, you do you, and don't worry about anybody else.
Okay, I'll do one more. So something that I think I did better this year that I I want to continue and I want to like continue doing better, even better than what I am right now. I'll admit it, I don't read a huge variety. I don't love and thrive a huge variety. Romance is just my happy spot. But I feel like last year I would have said I read like rom-coms almost exclusively, I would say. And this year I feel like I read a lot more fantasy and I tried historical, I tried the
Hmm.
Regency, contemporary or magical what is that? Magical realism. So like different subgenres. For me, that's what that looks like. Just a bigger variety where I am not like Hillary said, like the page count, not letting that affect it, not being scared to start a fantasy because it's huge or because it's a huge series and then I'm going to be tied up in a series for a long time.
Yes, yes.
I have gotten better at that. Sometimes that's just what my month is going to look like, and that's fine. Instead of me just trying to push rom-com, 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 I'm trying to switch it up before I hit that part where I'm just totally burned out and just not enjoying that genre anymore. So that's something I want to do better at next year.
Okay. So now I have just a few of podcast things. I'll just say them really quick right in a row what I have liked about the podcast. So I would like to keep using the same format. I've loved what how we've like come in, we've played around with a bunch of stuff, but I think I like what we've come to is like recapping how our week has gone, two recent reads, a topic of the week, and then a short list. It has seems to serve us really well, and it has really helped us with like consistency and even like when we've had guests, which is another point I wanted to make, uh, to keep being very picky with our guests. We're very, very selective. We want to continue to do that, to have guests when we want and need, but to not make it a regular thing. For the most part, it will just be Hannah and me. And that's it. Every now and then on a special occasion, it is fun to mix it up. And when Hannah was sick for quite a while, and that was awesome that we had a pool of people to help us. And that was cool. However, we both are like, yeah, we still want to be really selective and just to make sure that, like we said, we've read their books, we support what their books are saying, and that we love the quality of the books too. So I'm proud of that. I want to keep doing that. And what I was saying is our format, I feel like applies to guests. It's really simple and to help them jump in if they ever need to. So I like what we've done. And then one thing I want to keep doing is I call it this to Hannah when we text about it is our vintage book club. I have enjoyed it, and we do plan to continue it after Twilight because we are almost done with Twilight. But
Hmm.
I don't know what we're doing next, but I think that has been fun.
Yeah, I've liked that too. I know I've liked our DNF episodes. I definitely want to keep doing
Yes.
those. I'm like, God knows I have enough for them.
Yeah,
Um,
I like those too. And our short list recap. I suck at those, but I do like them.
I feel conflicted because this is I don't know who I was talking to where oh who was I don't it doesn't matter. We were talking about we're gonna have an episode about our most disappointing reads of 2024 and I was like I mean just pull
Short
up
list.
yeah I was like just pull up my short list because
Yeah,
like it's a joke but
we don't need to be redundant. Yeah.
it's just wow. So part of me was like, well, is the short list, not working? I guess for me, I like it because it just keeps things again, like I've always said, like the TBR is so long. I like having your eye on something that is like what you're in the mood for. So I like the
Yeah.
concept of it. In execution, I can't control the results, guys, but
Yeah.
I like the idea of it.
Yeah, you guys let us know, but
Yeah. And yeah, like Hillary said with the guests, we are kind of picky. I know when we started it, me and Hillary, we are readers. We are not authors. We are not aspiring authors. I'm like, unless Hillary has a secret, we
no, I do not plan to ever write a
we
book.
are not aspiring authors. We have no desire to write. I don't know. I guess for me, for us, when we made the podcast, we wanted to be able to talk about books like as a reader. So yes, we have authors come on, but the focus for I mean every guest we've had on, whoever it was,
Is a
whether
reader. You're
yes,
talking about books you read.
yes, we're talking about it from a reader's perspective. And sure there is some of the author side of it, which is fun, but you're coming on and we're talking about from a reader's perspective. So,
Yeah, we're not coming to interview authors. Like that's just not our strong suit, I guess.
yes,
Yeah.
and there are podcasts that do that. And so that was something too that when we were making the podcast, we were like, we don't want to do that.
No, we want to talk to people about books. That's it.
Yes, about books, the good, the bad, the ugly. So,
Yeah.
so yes, I definitely want to continue that next year, regardless of whoever we do have on. That is, yeah, that's what I want to keep it as.
I wanted to know if no one noticed, we are changing the titles of our episodes. I think we're just doing without the seasons. No one cares about this. But because it's confusing of what is a season. I don't know. So we're just going to do episode numbers and that's it. And then I want to say really quick, I want to do better at being more vocal with my beliefs. And so I know like there are books that I have read that are Christian books or political books or you know what I mean? Like those things that I haven't brought to the show because I don't want to offend someone and I don't want to, cause a controversy. But here's the thing. Other podcasts have no problems talking about the books that they read, no matter how, what social issue it is. So I don't know why I find the hesitation to talk about what I believe. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so I'm going to do a little better at sharing, whether that's on my Instagram or whether that's here. Like Hannah and I believe that we're not perfect by any means, but like we are called to speak about who we are and our beliefs and what we think. And that's the whole point of all this, right? We don't have to all agree, but, do a little better at being more vocal. Like, yeah, this is a book I read. You may not like it. That's okay. But this is what I read. This is what I thought. And yeah, just being a little bit better at sharing about that side of my life and my faith and then also doing a better job with my reviews. Like, Hannah does a good job at this, like disclosing spice. I struggle with that just because I feel inexperienced with how to talk about it. I've been trying more, but just doing a little better, like so that you know what you're going into with a book. I want to do better at preparing you so that you fully know this is a book I want to try or this is not. I don't want to just be like, I love this book. And then you read it and you're like, wow, this was super steamy or this, I don't know. And then you
Yeah.
had no idea. I want to do better at preparing you for what's inside a book.
Yeah. And then the one more thing too that came to mind that I forgot to put in my notes, but I want to say really quick. Today when I brought, and Hillary did too, so that's ironic, but whenever I brought Merry Little Match, I did think I'm like, oh, I'm not going to bring it because it's not in season. And that has been something for the podcast that I have always kept in mind. Like I'm like, I don't want to bring a fall book if it's not fall yet, or I don't want to bring a Christmas book if it's not Christmas. In 2025, and I haven't even talked to Hillary about this, I'm just gonna bring what I want to bring. So if that is a Halloween book, like in March, I mean, guys,
Oh, well.
I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do because I feel like I do that on my Instagram and I've said that always that I'm like I want to say what I want to say and we have the freedom to do that on our pages and on our podcast. So hopefully you'll be along for the ride because I think we're all kind of mood readers and it's important for us to all have that freedom to just, be ourselves and to share what we want to share when we want to share it. So, you will probably be seeing Christmas before too long.
Okay, let's talk about our short list really quick.
My short list is Forever Rain by VB Lacey. I feel like she's been on our short list, like she's been mentioned in every episode for
Yeah, a
like
lot.
a month. This is book 2 in her duology, and I really liked book 1, so I'm excited for this one.
And my short list is this is funny. Christmas with the Crank by Courtney Walsh. I know Hannah has feelings about this book. It just listen, it's my book club book. And so I gotta try it because you all already know how I feel about book club books. Those are the books that I'm like, I always try them, always. No matter what, I will try a book club book. And I am a little nervous because Hannah had all types of feelings about it, but
No, no, I,
yes, she did. She did. And so but you know what, Hannah, you're not alone because people in the book club have been like, I don't know how I feel about this book.
I'm like,
So
ah.
so I will I don't know how to report back because by the time I finish it, I feel like we'll be in February in book podcast world, but I will report back because it will do a short list recap at some point.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Like, share, comment. Spotify has comments. You can literally comment anything you want. So go in the comment
Yeah, thank
section.
you guys for rating us. We
Yeah.
have just keep on keeping on.
Yeah. Comment your short list. Comment what you want to do different next year. Like literally whatever. Give us feedback so we're not just talking to ourselves. But yeah, that's all. Anything
Bye.
else? Okay.
No. No.
Bye.
If you've made it this far and didn't add this episode to your DNF pile, thanks a bunch.
That brings us to the end of this week's episode for the Don't You Two Read podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing about our recently read books and hopefully getting to know us better as we begin this podcast journey with you guys.
We will be including timestamps in the description on every episode so you can check there for books or products that we mention in today's episode.
Be sure to tune in to our next episode when we will be chatting about all things books. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Don't You Two Read Podcast, and you can find me at Hannah Reads.
And I'm at Hilary Reads. If you enjoyed today's episode, would you take a moment to follow us? You can also rate and review us wherever you listen. And as always, please share this with all of your bookish friends.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time, we hope you have a magical week filled with 5-star reads.